Hi, everybody. I'm here with Helen Johnson, and we're talking about recruiter enablement. So, Helen, thank you for joining me today. And give us a quick introduction to you, your background, and what you do today.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. I'm Helen Johnson, and I'm currently the Deputy Head of Recruitment, Head of Apprenticeships at Oxford University. I've been working in recruitment for about 16 years. I come from working currently in higher education, but previous to that, worked in commercial organisations. Worked for a PFI, which was a mixture of a civilian and military organisation, which was we went from startup to scale up during a period of time that I was there. So I worked there for about 8 years in total, and then I joined the higher education industry.
Yes. So, working at the University of Oxford, I mean, I have to ask this: is everybody like crazy smart and like IQs of 150, and the expectation on you like super high compared to everywhere else, or is it a standard workplace?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, one of the biggest challenges that we have is the perception of Oxford. So certainly the academics, they are incredible kind of academics and researchers, and some of the work that they produce is fascinating. But for the professional services areas, they're just normal people, and it's very much like any other organisation. I would just say that they move at a slower pace than what a commercial organisation does. So it's quite difficult to make change at speed within the university space. They have very much a kind of collaborative and consultative approach to everything that we do. So trying to make things better and make changes and improvements can be quite a challenge for us.
Is that because it's I'm not sure if it's a government organization or a charity. I'm not sure what the status of higher education is, but is it
Mhm.
because it's something like that? Or is it because like everybody's so thoughtful that decisions take time to kind of consider?
Yeah, I think Oxford is slightly different to other universities because of the way that it's set up. So it's quite a devolved organisation in that sense. So we have five main divisions, and they all kind of operate in their own way. So they have
Yeah.
their own kind of HR teams, they have their own sub departments, and then sub departments within sub departments. And then you've got the central university that is kind of meant to set policy and how to kind of improve processes and policy and kind of set the tone of things. But we only advise, so we don't say that this is the way that has to be done. We kind of set this tone of this is what we advise and this is the best practice that you should be following. But they don't have to do it, which is kind of so we almost kind of create the problem ourselves in a sense. But it's the way that it's been set up, and it's the way that it will remain set up, I think, in terms of kind of the university as a whole. But it also makes it really rewarding when you can then make change and do
Yeah.
things differently, because of you have to go through such a lengthy process to get there and to influence and collaborate and consult with people to get things through. So it's rewarding in a different way.
I imagine people. Sorry, this is like I didn't brief you that I was going to ask you these questions.
That's
It's just really
okay.
fascinating for me. But I guess people when they join probably are surprised by the scale of the organization as well. Because I bet
Yeah.
it's like people think about the local university round the corner from where they live, but I think that yours is probably more like an enterprise, an enterprise employer sized kind of venture.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we are huge. So we have just working within the university itself, we have about 15,000 employees.
Wow.
We then have Oxford University Press, which is part of the
Yeah.
university but operates separately. So they have another several, I'm actually not sure what the headcount is at the minute, but a huge number of kind of employees as well. And then you've got the colleges that kind of sit around the collegiate university. So we're the biggest employer in Oxford when you take into
Yeah.
account all of those areas. So it is huge, and people
Yeah.
don't realise. So yeah, and it's difficult because it's large, it's complex, it's a matrix setup. So it is a difficult place to navigate, and people do struggle coming from different sectors into the space. I would say it's one of the challenges
Yeah.
that people have.
I can imagine that, but I can. You've got quite a few advantages though as well, because around the Oxford area, there's quite a lot of really good employers that you can
Mhm.
probably hire from. It's probably quite a great kind of local talent pool, and at the same time, you've got a brand which is going to be very attractive to people to have on their CV, and to be able to tell your friends and family, that who you work for is a bit of
Yeah.
prestige factor, I would think.
Yeah, so it actually doesn't work for in our favour for professional services staff. So there are kind of legacy perceptions, I guess, of Oxford. People have their own perceptions from kind of growing up within the area. And you're right, there is a huge talent pool within Oxfordshire, but we aren't
Mm,
great at attracting people from our immediate local labour market. And it generally is down to the kind of perceptions that they have of Oxford or the perceptions that their parents maybe had of Oxford. And people think, you have to know somebody to get in. You have to have studied at Oxford to be able to work at Oxford, and it's not like that at all. But I even thought it before I joined Oxford. So we're trying to break down some of those barriers, and we're doing a lot of work in the early career space to kind of break those barriers through kind of schools and engaging with young people, and other kind of organisations, local organisations and charities within Oxfordshire to try and break down some of those barriers. But it is one of the challenges that we have. You're absolutely right in terms of kind of academic and researchers. Yes, having
yeah.
Oxford on your CV is exactly what they want, and that brand attracts them. But actually, for professional services staff, we don't. And your point about competing within the market, it's true. So we're competing in an Oxfordshire market, but we are a public sector paying organisation. So our salaries are not high. We have different benefits, but our salaries don't compete with the commercial sector.
Mm, yeah. Okay. So it's an exciting employer brand challenge, if nothing else.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Let's get on to the subject, recruiter enablement. So just what does it mean to you? What's recruiter enablement? And give us any examples of things that maybe you've been involved with which have been either effective or the opposite.
Yeah, absolutely. So, recruitment enablement to me is kind of moving anything in the right direction in terms of
Mhm.
kind of recruitment. So we have lots of challenges kind of here and in previous organisations that I've worked with. So one of our biggest challenges that we have here is with regards to a system that works. So we don't have an ATS system. You might question how that works in an organisation of this size when we have that much recruitment that takes place. I think we have about 3,000 vacancies a year to fill. So it's significant across the whole of the university, but we don't have a system that is fit for purpose at the minute. So what we are, or what myself and my team are having to do is kind of find workarounds to implement different ways of doing things that is outside of a system because of the system isn't fit for purpose. So we're having to be quite innovative and creative about trying to make improvements and using different platforms. So we've been recently trialing things even just from a project management perspective. So we've been using Monday to try and see if that
Mhm.
would be a better way to kind of, because we don't have an ATS system, you can't just log on and see what recruitment we have. I can't see where all the recruiters are, where we are with the stages. So using kind of even basic platforms such as Monday or Trello or something like that to try and make it better and enable our kind of oversight of recruitment better. So yeah, for me, it's something that I'm really passionate about because of we're having to be innovative and creative because of we don't have the funds to increase our system. We don't have the funds to change our system. We're tied in it to it for another 3 years. So anything that we're trying to do to improve it and make our enablement better is something that I'm very focused on. And we have a huge approach in terms of kind of continuous improvement and looking at everything that we do and challenging it and making sure that we're reviewing it at all times.
So, I mean, I'm just going to go back to my point about you having an interesting employer brand challenge. You've got an interesting tech challenge and process challenge there as well. And
Yeah.
um, it's great to learn that you've been looking at um, outside of recruitment for interesting solutions like Monday and Trello and things like that.
Hmm.
Um, Tell me about the way that somebody like I've come and joined your team. How do I get up to speed? How do I what how am I enabled to start making an impact quickly?
Yeah, so making it so my team are going through quite a huge change at the minute. So we are bringing in recruiters because actually we haven't had recruiters in a traditional sense before. So they have been administrators that have worked in recruitment, but all we've ever done is kind of administration. So my background is kind of recruitment and being able to source candidates. So we're moving into that model. So we've actually had several people just join the team recently. And we so to get up to scratch, so I guess to not be put off by the number of kind of processes and policies that exist. So that is a huge barrier, I would say, and
Mhm.
trying to get your head around that and how the university works. The other area I'd say would be taking into account that people maybe change for people that have been within the university, we tend to have people that have worked for the university for a number of years,
Yeah.
and they're resistant to change to a degree. So providing data to try and make decisions better, to try and improve kind of what we're doing. So we're doing a lot of work with regards to kind of that side of things. And then I think for me, it would just be trying to understand the university, and the complexities of it, which is really difficult. And I still find out things on a weekly basis that I didn't know about the university. So it's not something that we expect people to understand and comprehend or be able to move kind of forward with it at any speed. And I've been here 5 years and I still don't know everything about the university because it does change. And it's just so complex to get your head around. So I think my team specifically, we're quite an innovative team. We're quite creative. So just having ideas, I've done it like this in a previous organization, is really helpful for me to kind of say, okay, well, let's try this and let's look at it this way. And some of those platforms that I kind of mentioned, that's been stemmed from some of the people that have joined recently to say, this doesn't work. How can we do this differently?
Mm.
Not sure if that actually answered your question.
Yeah, no, it does, but it does sound like there's a lot for somebody coming and joining your team at this point to do, because
Yeah.
you're going through a model shift.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me to hear about, I mean, I still hear it quite regularly, but when you hear about large organizations and they still have more of an administrative kind of approach to, presumably there was a lot of vacancies and then managing the applications
Hmm.
is what has been done. But now what you're
Yeah.
doing is going, we need to hire the best people we can find that are
Hmm.
interested in this and we can match, rather than who's actually looking at that
Hmm.
advert at that time when we post it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's been traditionally we just put the job advert on the website and we wait for people to apply, and that's as much as the outreach has been done. Some
Yeah.
jobs fail, a significant amount were failing because there wasn't any proactiveness about it. We know that people don't look at our website. Applying for our website isn't great. So one of the other things that we've just been trialing with some of our roles is to turn on easy apply on LinkedIn so that we can capture candidates there and then reach out to all of those candidates directly and screen them, set up calls with them, and then get them to apply via our website. Because of our website is clunky, there is kind of 5 steps that you have to do before you can even just submit your application. And we know that that's not competitive. We're going to lose. Our drop-off rate is it's significant. It's up in the kind of 70-80% of kind of click applies to actual applications submitted through the
Yeah.
system. So we're having to test different things to try and make it better, because we know it's not great and I know I can't change it, so we have to do things differently from my team's perspective to be able to move things in the right direction.
Okay, one more that I want to ask about is around like you've gone from a team of people who are sifting applications. If you're doing a lot more kind of outbound recruitment and that type of thing now, I expect that there's going to be lots of new circumstances where recruiters in your team have to write content or create things.
Hmm.
So how do you think about like the marketing aspects of recruiters need things to do their job,
Yeah.
really effectively? How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so we are not how I would necessarily love us to be doing it going forward, but we have got a kind of a capacity issue and a lack of kind of enablement, I guess, in place at the minute to be able to kind of use copy, kind of share copy and those sorts of things. So we have just it sounds small, but it's quite significant for us. So before we have just had everybody, it's because it's just been an administrative process. The tasks have just been done based on what the task comes through on it, that in the emails basically,
Mm.
as opposed to Max, you own this department, and this is what we want you to own, and we want you to take it from start to finish. So they are managing that whole aspect. So basically, every recruiter has now been allocated departments within the area that we look after, so that they can start to get to know those departments, really work with them, and then they can create their story and narrative from the time that they spend with them. So the team are being kind of out on the ground, spending time with these areas, so that they can really understand what it's like to work there, so they can then build that narrative to then use that as part of their um, sales pitch to a degree to the
Yeah.
candidates, but be able to tell that narrative and actually understand it. Because again, coming into the university, no matter which department you're in, it is just ridiculously complex to understand, and everyone operates in its own way. So that's how we've been doing it. We've given them the ownership to take forward departments, to own it from start to finish, to own the candidates. And we've got quite a lot of junior staff within the team. So we've got some more experienced members of staff that have now come in, and they are helping to upskill those more junior members of staff. So it's it's exciting, but it is not without its challenges.
Yes, I think that's a great summary. It sounds to me like there are lots of wonderful challenges ahead, and I'm surprised you're not wearing a crash helmet. But yes, Helen, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. It's been great to find out more about how you're doing things and what's coming up ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Adam. Good to meet you.